5 World Cup stars just delivered the best tournament of their careers, and not one of them has a club. Not a small club, not a backup option, nothing. One shook hands on a transfer, agreed personal terms, and still watched it collapse. One is trapped in a rivalry so toxic his own team would rather bench him forever than sell him to a competitor. Another comes with a price tag so brutal it's scaring off Manchester City. A great World Cup is supposed to open doors. For these 5, it's slamming every single one shut. Start with the worst-case scenario, total unemployment. James Rodriguez is 35, and yet Colombia handed him the armband and built the entire team around his vision. He was the captain, the brain, the man every teammate looked for when the game got tight. He delivered on that trust deep into the tournament. Then the World Cup ended, and so did his career at club level in an instant. Minnesota United held a simple option to extend his contract through December. They looked at it and let it expire. No transfer war, no rejected bid, just a club quietly deciding he wasn't worth the extension. That's the brutal part. You can captain your nation through another World Cup and still fly home to nothing, because clubs stopped seeing the name years ago. All they see now is a 35-year-old body and a declining shelf life. What's worse than being completely unemployed? Watching 2 of Europe's biggest clubs want the exact same player and still not getting it done. That's Julian Alvarez's summer. Alvarez didn't just play well at this World Cup, he produced one of its defining moments and dragged Argentina back into another final. By any rational transfer logic, that kind of tournament ends a stalemate. Instead, it detonated one. Alvarez wants Barcelona, Barcelona wants Alvarez. And Atletico Madrid, the club that actually owns his signature, would rather torch the deal entirely than hand a direct rival their best striker. Real Madrid then poured gasoline on it. A reported €150 million bid landed before the tournament even started, a number some inside Barcelona reportedly saw as more of a political stunt than a real offer. Genuine or not, it didn't matter. It reset the entire market's expectations overnight. Now Atletico is publicly refusing to sell even at €200 million. This was never really about form. It's about pride, leverage, and a club holding every card in the deck. The cruelest part? The better Alvarez played, the more expensive and untouchable he became. A World Cup final couldn't break this rivalry. Wait until you see what one number is doing to Chelsea's plans for Enzo Fernandez. Enzo's tournament was pure chaos in both directions. He scored the equalizer in Argentina's stunning semifinal comeback, then got sent off in the final itself. Nobody left that World Cup doubting whether he belongs on the biggest stage. The only question is whether anyone can actually afford him. Real Madrid have already ruled themselves out. Manchester City are circling as a possible long-term Rodri replacement if that separate deal even happens. And Chelsea's price sits around £120 million. Not a transfer fee anymore. A wall. It's high enough to eliminate almost every club in world football from the conversation before a single phone call is made. The math is cold and simple. Everyone wants him. Almost nobody can pay for him. The irony cuts deep. Enzo is good enough to be wanted by the biggest clubs in the world, and priced high enough that none of them can actually reach him. £120 million just froze one World Cup finalist's entire summer. A relegation is about to do something even stranger to the next player's market. Morocco reached the quarterfinals again, and Unahi was one of the biggest reasons why, a knockout round performance sharp enough to get him named among the tournament's best African players. Then he went home to disaster. Girona got relegated. On paper, that should have made this the easiest transfer of the entire summer. A World Cup quarter-finalist, a selling club desperate to cash in, a fee that's actually reasonable. Somebody should have signed him within days. Instead, Barcelona have looked, Ajax have looked, Real Madrid have even been mentioned, and nobody has pulled the trigger. This is the strangest kind of transfer paralysis, a deal so obvious that everyone assumes somebody else will close it first, so nobody does. The result? Relegation was supposed to make this simple. Instead, it's the reason he's still sitting there, untouched, weeks later. At least Unahi still has real interest circling him. The next player actually got a deal to the finish line and watched it die right there. Emiliano Martinez nearly single-handedly dragged Argentina to back-to-back World Cup titles, producing save after save in a final that stretched all the way into extra time before Spain finally broke through. That's exactly the kind of performance that's supposed to end a transfer deadlock for good. And for a moment, it looked like it had. Juventus came in hard, personal terms were reportedly agreed, Aston Villa were prepared to sit down and negotiate a fee. This deal was one signature away from being finished. Then Juventus walked. Their reasoning wasn't dramatic, it was cold arithmetic. Fee, salary, bonuses, all added up, and the total number was too rich for their finances. No scandal, no fallout, just a spreadsheet that said no. That's what makes this the harshest outcome on the list. Martinez did everything right. He performed on the biggest stage on earth, agreed terms, and had a willing seller lined up. The numbers killed it anyway at the very last step. Now look at what actually connects all five of these. James lost his career at club level to one declined option. Alvarez is a hostage to a rivalry that has nothing to do with how he played. Enzo is frozen by a fee built specifically to scare buyers away. Unahi is stuck in the kind of hesitation that only happens when a deal looks too easy to be true. Martinez did everything a player can possibly control and still got told no by a calculator. These aren't 5 isolated bad luck stories. They're the same brutal truth, told 5 different ways. A World Cup can make the entire world know your name, but it cannot force one club to actually sign the contract. Sometimes it just adds another reason not to. So out of these 5, who actually gets a move before the window slams shut, and who's still stuck exactly where they are on deadline day? Call your shot in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and we'll see who was right.